Sweet. Thank
How are
you.
you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. Huge fan of your music. So thank you for taking time to do this.
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate it for you even getting on and we get to do this.
Absolutely. Um, Congrats on your new album, God Said No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's getting incredible reviews. I saw the New York Times did a big piece. Pitchfork gave a great review. It's a very personal record. And I've heard that you've been recommending fans to listen to the album alone, which, when I was a teenager, there was some music that I had such a personal connection to. I'd be embarrassed if somebody heard me listening to it, or if my mom walked in the room, I'd take it off real quick and just,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of music that I listen to that once I put it on in the car with like other people, I'm like, oh God, like you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I think listening to it alone is I guess how I intended it. I guess I felt very alone and all the words I wrote were alone. So something about, just solitude, serenity, resonated with the listening experience. But I mean, when I'm doing the show, it's gonna be a whole different thing. I mean, it's gonna be so many people, but and it'll feel a lot different too. I think all the music was made to be listened to live. Um, so I guess when it's not live, I think of it as more of a headphone experience. But yeah.
What were those albums, or what is the music that you switch off if somebody walks in?
Oh, maybe like some Elliott Smith or something. Something really sad. Um, yeah, I mean like anything that has like I don't know. I feel like when I get in the car, it's very performative when I'm with my friends. Sometimes I don't care and I'll throw on whatever. I'll throw on some, Adrian Linker or something. But other than that, I mean, I'll throw on like the newest shit or something, something that just came out.
The album has a big sound. There's some really great arrangements on the record. And I read that movie scores were a big influence on the record. And that's something that you kind of are trying to maybe gravitate towards in the future, scoring films. Tell me about the influence of film scores on this record.
Yeah. So I mean, it inspired the whole record, film. I think music paired with imagery is one of the most beautiful things you could do. And I was really inspired by this Japanese composer whose name is Ryuichi Sakamoto. He influenced like all of my piano playing on the record, all of my piano playing in general. And he just really excites me. I don't know, something about his music, I guess calms the spikes of emotion in my brain. So, I just wanted to really do that on the record and have like kind of like these meditative moments, but at the same time still have, this is really good feeling and energy and release that I feel like humans are, they're complex. They have all these emotions back and forth. And yeah, I just wanted to make something that sounded like what the human experience is like.
I love that. R.I.P. Ryuichi. What a great composer and pianist. That's amazing. Speaking of film, you're about to make your debut as an actor in an adaptation of the William Burroughs novel Queer. Is that right? Tell me about your entry point into acting and yeah, what the future is there.
Yeah, it was funny. I said it in an interview, like for Variety, or I think it was like the red carpet or something. As and I said it, and I think someone on their team saw that. They're like, "Oh, you want to get into acting?" Like, And the film is set in like Mexico City. So it's perfect. I mean, I'm already Mexican, so I was just ready to go. And the movie's called Queer. I'm like queer Mexican. It kind of makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I just went and it was an amazing experience. I think I don't want to talk too much about it, but because I like we have press and stuff coming up, but I'm like really excited because Luca Guadagnino is actually like one of my favorite directors that when I was in Indiana, I was just like watching his films and I was obsessing over it, he was my favorite. So the fact that I was even, considered and like got to see how he works and he became like a friend and that's just surreal to me and it's just one of the reasons why I just love what I do and keep doing what I'm doing.
Speaking of Indiana, you're launching your North American tour in Indianapolis. You grew up in Indiana. You're a native Hoosier. You grew up in Hobart, Indiana. Is there any symbolic gesture in opening the tour in Indiana, or is that just purely coincidental and logistical?
Well, what kind of answer do you want here?
No, tell the truth. I mean, I bet it's. I know a lot of tours start here because, you don't want to go and flop in Chicago or New York on your opening. You can flop in Indiana, right?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't a conversation. That's all pure routing,
Okay.
uh, for the tour, as like as far as like the agents do and things like that. But I mean, I wanted to tell you, yeah, like yeah, I'm coming to my hometown first, like but I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like I wasn't behind any of the routing. I don't know how to. I let people do their job when it comes to maps.
Well, let me ask the question in a different way. Does it mean anything to you? Does it
It
have
actually
a
does.
symbolic meaning? Yeah.
It actually does because I feel like the show is so different. This show is going to be completely different. I mean, it's we have dancers, we have production that the costs are like and resources that we have are way far different from what they were before. So we're putting on a different level of show that I think is really going that I feel like Indiana hasn't really seen somebody from there do something like that. Um, and yeah, I just am excited to, and energized to be like, there and the history behind it. I mean, every time I play an indie, I'm like, yeah, I'm from the 209 up north, like all that stuff, and whatever. And I'm just just flexing like, y'all know I'm from here, So it's gonna be cool to do that, but like, actually do it instead of like saying it and just being like, well, this guy's from here, But yeah, I don't know. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be like one of the best tours this year, honestly. It's going to be insane. I can
A
say
lot of
that.
my work as a music journalist involves researching the history of music and arts in Indiana. And there's an incredible lineage of soul and R&B music here, from including icons like Babyface, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, tons of lesser known names, Timmy
Wait,
Thomas, Sonny Jones.
Babyface is from Indiana?
He's from Indianapolis. Yeah, he comes back here all the time.
He's
Yeah,
from Naptown?
he is. Yeah, he
I
grew up,
did
he was
not know.
singing in bands as a teenager here and has real deep roots. His family's still here.
That's crazy. I just like sang a song that he wrote.
No kidding. Which one?
It's not out. It's some
Okay, got it.
another
Got it.
artist. But
Yeah. Do you feel connected to that lineage of history here, or maybe not? Maybe it's something
yes,
you,
I
yeah,
do. Yeah,
yeah.
I grew up 5 minutes down the street from Michael Jackson's house on Jackson Street.
Mm.
So Gary, Indiana is like super, super close. And also all of the musicians coming out of Gary. Um, and like I think it was called the Chinling Circuit
Chitlin
or
circuit. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Circuit. Yeah, I knew all about that from this guy who would come into Guitar Center all the time. He would tell me about it and how jazz started over there, um, and then I would work when I was working at Guitar Center. They'd come in and I'd jam with everybody, all the players, from like R&B to soul to rock to whatever. And that's how I like kind of picked up on, I guess, the area's like I guess taste. And I learned so much. I learned all about chords, and I was teaching them what I would find too, and it was like an even exchange, and they'd come in and be like, Omar, like, come on, let's go play, and I'd go back there and I'd jam, hop on a bass or hop on a guitar, and they'd hop on the bass, and so yeah, like I know that, and I also know like the that James Dean's from Indiana. Um, we have a lot of cool people. We got a lot
Yeah.
of good, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
there's a book about it's called The Road to Rock and Roll: The Birth of the Chitlin Circuit, and it's about a R&B promoter from Indianapolis who developed the Chitlin Circuit. If you ever want to dive into that history, yeah.
I mean, tell me about it. Who are the more lesser known guys? I wanted to
Oh, from
hear that.
Indiana. I mean, have you ever
Yeah.
heard Timmy Thomas? Why Can't We Live Together from Evansville? Drake sampled it in Hotline Bling. Uh, Denise Williams and Gary.
Oh, Denise Williams, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
incredible.
her grandson was driving me around in Vegas. He was like a driver. But
Yeah,
that was crazy. Like he's like, yeah, my grandma's in the music industry. I'm like, who's your, oh no, it was his mom. He's like, and then he said it was Denise Williams. I love Free. Like I love Denise Williams. And
yeah,
that's like right by me, like literally right
beautiful.
next. Denise Williams is the oh.
Let
She's
me give you one recommendation if you don't mind. Here in Indianapolis, there was a vocal group in the 60s called the Vanguards, and they recorded a song called Somebody Please, which has become massive in the Chicano oldies movement in LA. People do it in Spanish. It's like the most
right.
beautiful, heartbreaking
Okay.
ballad ever. Somebody Please. It's like one of those slow burn R&B ballads. The Vanguards. Check it out, and you'll love it. It's been sampled by a lot of Chicano rappers too. It's like a
Oh, I
meme
have this.
almost.
I know the song.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Give me just a minute. Is
Oh
this
my God, I can't believe you're singing this. I work with those guys here in the city, and they're heroes of mine. So yeah, I love that
Vanguard?
you know that, man. That's amazing. But yeah, rich history here, and you're a part of that, in my view. Do you feel connected to the Michael Jacksons and baby faces of Indiana?
Like, like just because I'm in the area, like, but I don't see myself as like, oh yeah, like, but I'm sure that like it had a huge influence on like why I am doing music. Like I'm like, dang, Michael Jackson was from down the street. Like what? Literally down the street. I could walk to his house in 3 minutes. So I mean that was like a big, 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 big thing for me. And I grew up playing in the church, playing guitar in the church, and sang a little bit, not really. I sang mostly when I got out of high school. Um, and then I really started to train my voice and learn how to use it, but and developed it and things like that. And started recording my own songs. Um, in the winter, like in the garage, like you can see my breath when I'm recording, like it's freezing in Indiana. So yeah, yeah, it's just I feel really connected to the area. Um, yeah, and I was actually like thinking about moving back, so I'm just like, going through that right now.
Do
So
it, do it, do it. There's a big scene growing here. There's like an emerging scene here.
no,
Yeah,
yeah, my friends got their ears to the streets. They're telling me like that ever since you left, everyone's been on it. I'm like, for real? And then so I'm just like, that's cool, because there was nothing when I was there.
yeah.
There was absolutely nothing. Like
I was
there
going to
was
ask that. Was there any kind of scene in Hobart that you felt connected to or in that region as a teenager? Was there anything you could kind of be a
there
part
was
of?
there was just literally my friends, and then a little bit of friends from Indianapolis that we met like on Twitter who were like on the same kind of like art kind of thing. They weren't making music, they're more photographers and creatives. And then I was up north by Gary and stuff making music. There was a few people in Gary I made music with. And then a few people down the street I make some music with. And we were all kind of like, on the same shit. And then the people from Chicago started to come to my house because they were like, whoa, like there's some shit going on over here. Or like, and I was engineering people. I was just recording them. They'd be like, can you engineer me? Like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, come through. Wouldn't even charge them. And then like it just started like this little thing, and then we would do like basement shows. Draco McCoy,
Oh,
he's
wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
from Indianapolis. He's
I know
yeah,
him. Yeah.
I have a song with him from like 2018 or something. You can
Wow.
find it's
Yeah.
on Apple Music, but yeah, we were just on that. I mean, I just knew that I had to hit the road. Like I had to go on the road to actually gain some sort of like a core fan base to succeed in what I wanted to do. But yeah, I really want to go back. I mean, I miss it, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful state. There's a lot to love about it and admire about it. I mean, Lake Michigan is right there. Um, all the green and the fields, and my brother lives in the country, like, a little bit more southern Indiana. So yeah, yeah, it's always been like a dream of mine for sure. And not the ridiculous amount of family I have there is crazy.
Yeah. Um, Indiana is a great place. It's a complicated place. You've talked a lot about how the conservatism of Indiana negatively affected you as a young person. It struck me that in your teenage years, that overlapped with Mike Pence's time as governor here. In
Right.
2015, Mike Pence passed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which many critics called um, a legalization of discrimination against lesbians, gays, trans, queer people. You were 18, I believe, when that passed. How did that conservative aspect of life and culture in Indiana shape your life as a young person?
I mean, I definitely had like this paranoia. of not being able to be myself in that area. And it is crazy. I remember seeing "fuck Mike Pence" signs everywhere. Um, but at the same time, I had like 25 friends with me at all times, and they were like, I mean, we were always just like, I was just like posseed up, like, because it was a scene, and I always did, I did receive a lot of like, from my old friends and things, and from people that were close to me, they would tell me and be like, this person thinks it's weird that we hang out or boom or whatever. Like it's like, does he try to touch you or does he try to, it's like, yo, you've known this guy for like 10 years. He's never touched you. I don't think he wants to touch you. So it's just kind of like, like, and then I remember being like, on top of being queer and on top of being Mexican, it was, you know, out here, I don't really stand out, like as a Mexican, like, but out there it was like, oh, like, where you from? And I'm just like, I'm from here. They're like, nah, where are you really from? And I'm like, I'm from here. I'm American. I was born in America, but obviously my parents are from Jalisco and well, they're from Zapopan and Guadalajara, but um, yeah, I just like grew up with, those kinds of tropes. And honestly, there was a lot of racism, especially to my parents. I mean, I could speak English like fluently, but if you had like a little bit of an accent or, you could tell you weren't from there. Like I remember being like 9 years old and somebody yelling at my mom for not understanding about like a credit card. Um, and like a credit or debit or something. And this guy is just like, there should be two lines, one for people who actually speak English or whatever. And then I was just like, I remember I was a little ass kid and I was just like screamed at him
Mm.
in the way that I knew how at that age. And like another mom came and grabbed me, like, oh my God, stop it. Like, like but growing up, I had to translate. I had to, I helped my parents get their citizenship and with their tests and everything, and like, oh, like, can you read this mail for me? What does it say? Can you, all the things of the house. And um, so there was like a lot of tiny nuanced um things I had to deal with being, um Mexican, but also like from a religious family and then dealing with being queer is like really complex. There's a lot of layers to it, but ultimately I just wanted to make music. I don't really care. I mean, this is just how I am. I can't change it. So I'm not intimidated or anything like that. Um, and also I was on the internet a lot, so I kind of saw that other, queer artists were emerging from their place and they were talking about the same struggles I was having. So, and that was what was, you know, helping them almost, their narrative and their true story. And so I just like, in the beginning, I didn't really mention it much because of that reason. Because I felt a little unsafe and I hate feeling unsafe and I love feeling safe. So, I definitely waited a bit to be a little more like, go to a big city and, where it's like normal. But yeah, it's definitely like I remember getting like all these looks and yeah, it's still like yeah, I remember like walking around the bars and in downtown like Hobart and my friends being I'm like, oh, let's go to this one. They're like, ooh, I don't know if we should go in that one. And I was like, why? They're like, that's like it's like a biker one. And I was just like, oh, okay, all right. So we wouldn't go there. But I mean, it was cool. And now, I mean, there's tons of queer kids in Indiana and I'm glad that they can feel safe and and if they don't, then I hope that it changes soon. But I think a lot of things are changing. A lot of things. I mean, that was like 2017 that I was really, really, really in Indiana. So
Yeah.
to 2018 too, but 2019 I was like I was everywhere. I was like, "Ah, I'm out." But I would come back and visit, but I would just see family.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. I just have two more questions for you. And you mentioned your parents are from Jalisco. I think they're from Guadalajara. I was I'm interested in the ways their taste in music influenced you. You just recently recorded a corrido version of Sabrina Carpenter's Please, 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 and you've referenced corrido music a lot in your work. Tell me about the influence of corridos and Mexican regional music on your songwriting and music making.
It's actually funny. I have like a very specific influence because my parents only showed me like a certain region of music.
Mm.
So I didn't get any of like the norteñas or like just like yeah, I don't know that I didn't get like all of it. I guess like if it would be if I were to compare it, I didn't get like funk, jazz, um, doo-wop, um, R&B, soul. Like I just got funk. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it was. Like and I didn't understand, even though they all kind of like have elements and and influenced by each other. Like I just got like one side of the Mexican music, which was like the very traditional, very classical, very Pedro Infantes, very like Frank Sinatra, big romantic songs. Um and like with like a lot of string arrangements and things like that. So my influence for corridos was always like this kind of like old school. Like my uncle would come with a guitar and just play at the anywhere we were at, we were there drinking, and he would just play boom, bum, 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 and it was just that rhythm the whole time. It was only songs with those rhythms, and so that's what I picked up on, and then aside from that, I was American, so I was experiencing all of the American culture and hip hop and rap and R&B soul. Um, Not so much country. I don't think I was south enough for that. But I was like up north, so like where all the R&B and shit was. But everything else I was like being exposed to. And so having the two, culture mix created kind of like this own like a subculture of like Mexican Americans in that area. Because a lot of my when I sing corridos, I still do like R&B runs and I still do soul runs. So it's cool to have those two influences. But I still have like this very classic like way of listening. Like I love Whitney and I love Juan Gabriel, who's like kind of the same world. But I mean Juan Gabriel experimented in everything, so did Whitney. But yeah, just like these kind of big Pavarotti-esque songs.
Yeah, I love it. You've created such a unique and beautiful fusion of soul and corrido music. It's so amazing. So I love it. You mentioned the discrimination you saw growing up against your family. I did, before we go, want to ask about what's happening today in America. The God Said No tour is happening against the backdrop of a very tense presidential race. One of the candidates has built his reputation on demonizing and lying about immigrants. He's now threatening mass deportation. Indiana is home to over 100,000 undocumented immigrants who have really built our cities up economically and culturally. They've made such an important contribution to our state. How do you feel as a Mexican American, as a son of an immigrant family? How do you feel about the language that's being used right now and the hateful rhetoric that's being normalized by this presidential candidate?
Well, first of all, thank you for giving visibility to all the Mexicans in Indiana because there's a lot. And they did, we did, yeah, the importance is, I mean, it's very beautiful to be recognized for that. Especially like knowing how much my parents have worked and had to, to just to give me any type of um thoughts outside of survival. Like even the fact that I was able to become an artist is because of them, having two jobs, working 16-hour days, and both of them. So like four jobs total, and me not seeing them until 11, and then they wake up at 6 and do the same thing for 20 years. Um, just so I can, live outside of this ideation of having to work to survive. So I'm very grateful for that, for you saying that. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I mean, as far as the hate, I mean, that's something that we've always had. Um, I grew up almost desensitized to slurs. I didn't even learn them. My parents didn't teach me them. I'd be in school and people would call me this, that, the third, and I didn't even know what it was. I was like so unfamiliar. I was just oblivious. I was a child. And I'd go home and be like, "Hey, someone called me this," and they're like, my mom wouldn't know either. Like they wouldn't know what it was. And it wasn't until I got into high school until someone told me like, "You're gonna let him call you that?" And I was like, "Well, what does it mean?" And then, "Well, he said it because you're Mexican." I was like, "Oh, that's why he wants me to cut his grass." Like, I was just so confused. And so the what's going on, with Trump and things like that. I mean, it's depressing. I mean, we've all like, I've said like I can't, stop all this shit, but I'm not a politician. I'm not, but I know that I'm inherently political, just by being a queer Mexican, and I'm here and I'm come from immigrant parents and I'm giving visibility to that community. So I hope that, that could lift some of the things that are being said and untrue, and just like hateful, honestly. Yeah, and my mom and dad have always tried to protect me from those things when I was younger. They'd be like, "Hey, you look a little different at school. They're going to be doing this, and they might, do and judge you for this or that, or how dark you get in the summer. Like they're gonna ask you like why are you, or whatever. I remember I used to get told by other out of protection, which is it's sad, but like I would get like other moms and my mom's like other Mexican families just be like, you should like stay out of the sun, like don't go out in the sun too much so you don't get like too dark, because of how we would be treated. And that was, a real like wake up call, and it's always just something I've always dealt with. It's been reality forever. So that my brothers deal with, my sister deals with, and her kids are dealing with. Um, and so yeah, it's just I think just bringing awareness and speaking about it is helping. And yeah, just continue to exist in the way that we do, and that is going to ultimately benefit everything. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And let me just say that there is a huge scene of Mexican Americans and Mexicans in Indiana making music, and your rise into the mainstream of popular music has really been a validation of their efforts here. So it has huge importance to that community and to me as a music fan and as an ally to that community. The work you're doing, just beyond its artistic merit, has a deeply significant cultural value here. So thank you for everything you've done as an artist. Uh, I appreciate it. And finally, any just final thoughts you want to share with the people here in Indiana before we go?
Well, Indiana, I'm coming back. It's gonna be a great show. On top of this conversation, you're gonna get to see, what I actually what I'm wanted to present this year. I've been working all year on it, and this album is a time capsule of a very, very specific time in my life that is heavy and is happy and is energetic and is all the emotions. So yeah, come to the show. It's gonna be insane. Like it's literally, and it's a beautiful venue. But I saw a photo of it. I was like, why wouldn't you go? It's
It's right
beautiful.
on the river. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right on the river. Like just come to come. Like, and then if you like the music, you like the music. If you don't, you don't. And that's it's cool.
Thank you, Omar. It was incredible to talk with you. I wish you the best of luck with your music and come back to Indiana.
I am.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
See you. Thank you.
Evergreen, he controls.